Good afternoon. My name is Maria Helsengren. I'm a partner in EY, Ernst & Young Consulting. And on behalf of today's organizers, NCE Seafood Innovation, NCE Legacy, and NCE Heidner Biocluster, as well as Biotech North, I'm very happy to welcome you all to the second webinar of this year's innovation process, Land Meets Ocean. And also very happy to introduce a cluster manager for NCE Legacy, Wenche Oksnøy, who will guide us through today's seminar.
Thank you so much, Maria, and welcome to all of you to today's webinar that we hope will direct us a step further into our goal of this Land Meets Ocean webinar series. How can we innovate more and better, and how can we create more and better in the green and blue sector? We will today get inspiration on how new products are made of residual raw materials in forest industry and in marine industry. Next week, the topics that will be covered in this series. On Tuesday, we would look into recycling of waste from aquaculture, agriculture, and fishery for value creation across sectors. And on Friday, it will be about development of new sustainable feed ingredients from land and ocean. But through this Land Meet Ocean webinar series, we are exploring the possibilities of innovation across aquaculture, agriculture, and fishery. The four clusters have invited stakeholders and experts from sectors, from different sectors, to share knowledge and insights on what is done today, and as well as the challenges and possibilities of the future. Today, we are happy to have in our panel of speakers Thor Sigfusson from Iceland Ocean Cluster, Arne Grønn from Glomment Technology, and Guro Møn-Tveit from Sintef Ocean. Some practical information. This session will be recorded, and we kindly ask you to mute your sound and turn off cameras. We would like questions. We love to have questions from you, and we want them to be asked in the chat function, so please type them in there. Now, we will get started, and we are happy to give you the first presentation from Iceland, where we are to get familiar with the Icelandic mindset in developing bioproducts. Thor Sigfusson, the founder of the Icelandic Ocean Cluster, will be presenting. He calls himself a speaker, writer, and entrepreneur, and uses extensively the slogan 100% fish. I've heard that a successful entrepreneur needs to possess the skills from both pirates and Navy SEALs. And it would not surprise me if Thor has both skills when seeing what has been achieved in Iceland. So enjoy his talk that is actually pre-recorded, and please address your questions in the chat, and our team will answer during or at the end of the webinar. So please. Now, Thor from
Good morning, Norway. Great to be with you. I am Thor Sigfusson. I'm the chairman of the Iceland Ocean Cluster. My plan today was to present to you our ideas regarding the byproducts and see how we could actually use probably some of our methods in Norway and vice versa. The challenge for countries like Iceland and Norway in the coming years is to find ways to keep these welfare nations competitive in the global seafood market. We know we have the quality products, but we also understand that we are often competing with countries with much different wage structure and labor welfare than we do. So to strengthen further our competitiveness, we need to act quickly, invest in more automation, and focus on full utilization of our catch. The question I will try to answer here is, can the Icelandic seafood model that emphasizes on technology, quality, and more utilization of seafood become a model for other countries? First, on automation. A processing plant in Iceland with 100 employees could process around 8 metric tons per hour in 2014. In 2020, the same plant could process over 50 metric tons per hour with the same manpower. This has made it at least partly possible for Iceland to keep processing fish and deliver a final product to our customers instead of sending our whole frozen fish a long way just to process in a country with much lower wages. We know that there is quite a difference between Norway and Iceland in terms of how much of the fish is actually made into products in the processing. Latest figures show Iceland in the range of 79 to 80% of each fish being used in the processing, and Norway closer to 56% usage of each fish. Is there a way to decrease the discards both in Iceland and in Norway? I believe so. I strongly believe so. Instead of flushing these approximately 200,000 metric tons of perfectly good protein of the cod, we can do better. Just to put it into perspective, 200,000 metric tons is probably close to 200 million healthy dishes a year. We could feed many hungry mouths with some of the best proteins in the world if we would stop the discards. But we know also this is not as easy as it may look. Many Norwegian boats had to steam a long way for the catch and have a limited storage for discards, and some fisheries lack technology to separate or process discards. But there are possibilities. When the Icelandic seafood industry decided to invest in a new fleet, they were determined to make a great step and innovate. They would not simply take the technology and methods that were used 20 or 30 years ago on board the newest Icelandic vessels. The team on board is not treating any parts as waste. The newest ships have 4 product streams where the fish, heads, liver, and intestines are separated from the beginning, making all these products more valuable. As we all know, the vitamin and minerals in many of these products, other products of the fish, are much more valued than in the fillet. This is probably the key to further development of this fish discards or fish waste, to have a good initial processing and cooling on board the vessels. Here, Norway has already taken good initial steps by increasing fish meal production on board the vessels. I believe the greatest hurdle for the 100% fish use is basically our mindset. I love the word tankasett in Norwegian. We call it þankagangur in Icelandic. It's the mindset. We need to get everybody to understand the value in our ocean proteins. Sometimes I think that the further we get from our coastal areas, there's more and more understanding of the value we have in our hands. That is to say, the ocean proteins. But we may be suffering from what is sometimes called resource blindedness. Such huge natural resources by our doorsteps may lead to blindedness of their value. There are also possible political reasons. I strongly believe the clear separation between fishing and processing is one of the reasons for the hurdles we find in full utilization in many countries. Iceland, on the other hand, allows for the fishing and processing to be on one hand. It is great to meet Icelandic fishermen who are enthusiastic about fish processing and have a lot of knowledge about the fishing and processing. I meet too many fishermen around the Atlantic who have never been focusing on the processing part and vice versa. Due to that, the fishermen continue to throw into the ocean the heads and intestines of the fish. The cod has been our livelihood of our countrymen for hundreds of years. We need to show this amazing fish the respect it deserves. 100% respect. That is why my mission has been to show people what we can and are actually doing with the majority of the discards in Iceland, and how we have become world leaders in utilizing more of the whitefish. We aim to use 100% of the fish. We need to inspire the industry and local communities in all major seafood countries to do more. Clusters are a great way to connect people and create the connections between fisheries and R&D and health manufacturers, marketing, etc. Most of the success stories in the Icelandic seafood sector and the development of the 100% fish originated at the university level or in R&D institutions. The reason is not that we have more clever people in this level than other nations. The reason is that there has always been a fairly short distance between academia and industry in Iceland. The R&D funds in Iceland have helped here as they require a collaboration between industry and R&D for possible funding. This is very much similar to the Norwegian model. But clusters have a great role to play here. And the success of the Iceland Ocean Cluster comes mainly from a clear focus on strengthening connections between very different people with different backgrounds and skills. In most parts of the world, the other products of the fish are still treated as waste, as I mentioned before. This will change drastically as the price of the quality raw material of the other products increases. This is what I expect will happen soon. Will the byproducts become more valuable than the fillets? My short answer is yes. The picture that I have now up is fish oil prices. We have already seen what has happened to the fish oil price and what is expected to happen. An insignificant increase in the price. But this will also happen with other proteins of the fish. Let me give you one example here. The fish skin. We can take the fish skin and create fish leather. This fish leather is worth around $8 a skin, and final products, of course, much more. If we take the fish skin and create fish collagen, which is a protein good for skin and joints, a kilo of fish collagen bulk is around $18 to $20. If we take this even further into retail, we can take the fish collagen and sell it as final product. The kilo is worth from $90 up to $120 for different types of products that are retail products. Our pride in Iceland now is, of course, the collagen and made into wound care, bound into dressings for human wounds. This company called Rehearsal, the fastest growing startup in Iceland now. The fish skin acts as a structure around which healthy cells can grow. The price here for each skin can be around $2,000 to $3,000. This is one of my favorite pictures now, the incredible fish value machine. A machine that can create amazing value from seafood. Not only the cod, of course, but various fish products. 20 years ago, fish skin was almost worthless in Iceland. 5 years ago, many fish skin ideas were being developed in the incredible fish value machine in Iceland, but value was less than $1.5 million. In 2021, the estimated value of fish skin products coming out of Iceland is around $25 to $30 million. Remember, 20 years ago, there was no value in the fish skin. 5 years ago, maybe 1.5, now $25 to $30 million. New and exciting jobs are also being created. It is first and foremost amazing R&D and clever entrepreneurs that explain this incredible success. We can do much more with these products in the coming years. What I think is very important here that the startup companies in question need fresh minds. And the industry needs also to look into different areas. There will be people coming into the so-called new seafood industry that have never been into seafood before. They come with a completely different background. And I think that's very important to keep in mind for all of us, that we can have different people with different backgrounds in the industry and enlarge the blue economy by getting them in. These are just few examples of people that have been coming into the ocean cluster. Most of them have had offices in the ocean cluster house in Reykjavik, been able to collaborate with other entrepreneurs and the industry to strengthen their own activity. And many of them have become hugely successful with their small startups. Clustering is the key here, and we need to keep that in mind, that it is absolutely crucial for all of us to understand that it is basically the connection between people that is going to make the huge difference here. When I established the startup company, Codland and Marine Collagen here in Iceland some years ago, I found strongly the importance of bringing together academia and industry to make sure that there would be this connection that is so much needed often in the seafood industry. And what we have found since is that there's been a lot of opportunities through this collaboration. Marine Collagen, the new factory is just recently opened and is estimated to produce around 300 metric tons of pure fish collagen in the coming years. But keep in mind also that when we move up this ladder, there is a completely different clientele. There's some completely different venues that we need to attend. We in the beginning thought that we would actually be at some of the typical expos talking about our collagen and about our full utilization of the proteins, etc. The fact is, we need to have quite a different approach to it. It means also that we need people into the industry that are not sort of all focusing just on the traditional methods or traditional ways of doing the marketing. Even the marketing is completely different. This is the nutraceutical market rather than the retail seafood market. Keep that in mind when we're talking about this new seafood, as I would call it. The question I posed in the beginning was, can the Icelandic seafood model that emphasizes on technology be used elsewhere? I say yes, absolutely. And I think Norwegians are showing it very well right now. You're, of course, becoming world leaders in utilizing many of the salmon products, the salmon byproducts now, something that we want to learn from you. And I think by the same token, I think Norwegian can definitely learn a lot from what we're doing in Iceland with regards to the whitefish. But I think collaboration between the clusters can also be a way for us to continue. There are opportunities, and we're actually now studying opportunities with Myhre in Norway to share ideas about contacts, share our mapping of all the companies that might be of interest in terms of full utilization of whitefish at this point. And there seems to be a lot of interesting opportunities to explore further there. What I think we could definitely get out of this more collaboration between the countries is not necessarily only in the full utilization. I think we should continue on that track. We need to market our products in the Far Eastern markets, Asian markets, and there we're probably better to work together than separately. So we see a lot of opportunities in Iceland in the collaboration between the two countries. And we can show that through the cluster work in the coming years. We're actually doing it already in some scale, but I think we can do better, learn from each other, and be both in the direction of using 100% of the fish, become a part of the 100% fish movement. Thank you.
Wow, there we had a lot of interesting thoughts from Thor in Iceland. Lot of good ideas, I think. I don't know if there's any questions to be asked now. I think Thor would probably join us, but we have also others in our teams that may answer his questions. But we will keep that in the chat for now and follow up in the end of the webinar. Now it's time for our next speaker, which is Arne Grønn, CEO at Glommet Technology. Arne and his team are in the process of realizing a dream, utilizing forest molasses as component into feed. A biomass of low value is finding new higher value applications, and Glommet Technology is starting a new industry adventure, realizing their idea for more sustainable end use of a traditional residual raw material. So we will leave the stage now to Arne, even if you got a phone. I hope it's okay, Arne. And he will take us into this opportunity and share some thoughts from his world, which is the forest industry. So please go ahead, Arne.
Thank you. We will. I will try to share the screen first of all. And I hope it worked during the rehearsal. Now I think it should work.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay. We will make it a little bigger. We are not at the end. Yes. Just a second. This is going the wrong way. Glommen Technology is a small company which is partly owned by Glommen Mjøsen Skog, which is a big company in Norwegian forestry. We are into making new processes for wood with the game of increasing the value of wood. And our main project now is production of wood sugars, which can be used as ingredients for ruminants. This slide shows the natural way from raw material to the end use. First, everything starts with logs. Then the raw materials are in the form of chips or sawdust and the like. They go into a process which is a kind of biorefinery, where the wood is defibrated and then can be taken apart into its different components. The main focus for us so far has been the extraction of wood sugars. That comes out as a syrup, wood molasses or skogsmolasse. This has been tested, and the intention is to use it as ingredient in feed for ruminants, especially milking cows, and will substitute molasses from cane and beet sugar. Norway imports 70,000 tons a year of molasses from cane and beet, and so far the conclusion is that everything can be substituted with a product from Norwegian forest, and that would give higher value to some of the raw materials, and it would be very more sustainable Norwegian agriculture. The other part of the wood, which is not becoming animal feed at this stage of the project, is then made to a renewable fuel pellets, which to a large part is substituting coal as fuel for electricity generation. So it is also a heavy sustainability asset there. Before we make pellets of the remaining wood, we have a product which is sown there, which is a pulp which reminds of peat. We know it can be used instead of peat as growing media, or also as animal bedding. The raw materials are byproducts from sawmills or from roundwood directly from the forest. This is to some extent the same raw material as is used by the pulp and paper industry, but we can go much lower in quality. Sawdust has today the only use as raw material for pellets, for fuel pellets, and also ingredients in chipboard. And the value increases considerably when you can turn some of it into animal feed. The refinery, I won't go much into the process, but it is a so-called auto-hydrolysis, which enables hemicellulose to be extracted as wood sugars and up to 25% of the dry matter in the wood. We add no chemicals. The process is a variant of steam explosion. It is, in principle, clearly related to how cellulose is made, but it's related, but it's not a close relative. Very close. Today we are taking out sugars from the hemicellulose. It is well known that potentially it's possible to take out glucose from the cellulose by using enzymes. Then Foods on Norway, which is run by the NMBU. They are heavily into that. We are not doing that yet. Potentially, that could add another 40% of the wood as sugars. See, yeah. The products as present then is summarized. The highest value is the wood sugars. The fibrous material, which can be used as a peat substitute and animal bedding, that we don't expect big volumes to start with, but it's a very interesting longer term. Then it's fuel pellets, where in a way anything goes. What is not good enough for higher value product goes to an efficient energy carrier. Our business idea is not to produce ourselves, but to develop know-how and selling know-how, making technology available. The main process which we are using now has been granted patent in the USA and Russia. And those two are very, very big forest countries. And it's patent pending in Europe. We expect a positive result soon. We also, of course, have further processes and products in the pipeline, but they will all be based on the core process. The commercialization of our know-how is then done by licensing of rights to use the process and design, engineering, and support for building production plants. We already have international and Norwegian licenses, and we are now engineering the first industrial scale plant to be located in Norway. The idea is then a log out in scale after first plant is successfully in operation. When we speak about land meets ocean, of course, the big topic is whether it's possible to make protein from wood for fish feeds. Well, the very basic is, of course, that about 2/3 of the wood can be made to sugars, at least theoretically. But let's say at least half without that much trouble. Sugars can be converted to protein by various methods. To some degree, it's being done also today, but not on that scale we are talking about. So, transforming wood to animal and fish feed is high on the ranking list of sustainable solutions, because this is then something which is not, wood is not edible, and to then transform an unedible product to something edible for animals and fish. It's a very sustainable solution. So far, so good. But whether it's today, it's the economical viability is good enough. It's another matter, which something I cannot answer for sure. But there are a few points I will emphasize so that we so not let the enthusiasm take over too much to start with. First of all, there is no abundance of waste or unused wood raw materials which are easily available. There are higher grade and lower grade wood, and for these purposes we can use lower grade woods. That's correct, but they all have some kind of use. But it's a matter of having efficient methods. Then there are raw materials available. Then there is another element which I sometimes wonder if people are thinking about when they're speaking about cheap wood residues. When we make wood sugars from wood sugars, then you have made a product which is at least as good as ordinary as other sugars. Of course, anybody producing it will not sell that any cheaper than other sugars, whatever the cost of the raw materials. All in all, other people have done a lot in this space. We have looked into it. So far, our conclusion is for us, not yet. That does not mean at all that we are not going into it later. But right now, our focus is to make a practical production plant, to get the practical production up and running. And in general, I think we have come quite far when it comes to the practical building of a plant which can do things like this from wood. But the NMBU is of course far ahead of us on the chemistry about going further. But for the practical commercial solutions, I think we are quite far. When it comes to the volumes and potential, if it's economically feasible, then I think I would emphasize that looking at Norway alone is not enough at all. The forestry resources in Norway are fine for building up in initializing development, but it's far too small for meeting the demands for fish feed. And I think theoretically we could produce 1 million tons here, but from the Norwegian wood. But I think we should be happy with the 100,000, or that would be quite an achievement. Also, developing wood technology for Norway alone is not viable. Therefore, we definitely have our focus very much outside. But then we are part of a wood basket around the Baltic and North Sea, which this is a market linked together. Price is more or less the same, and so on. Sweden, Finland, Baltic states, Northwest Russia, Germany, Norway. And when we look at that area, then there are big volumes. We welcome partners. We can put it that way, that without serious partners in the blue sector, we will probably forget about it. But if there are partners who would want to join us to see what can be done, then that's very welcome. Fish feed in big quantities is one thing. I'd also like to mention a couple much smaller things which we know can have some impact. In our product, we know there are prebiotics, which in the US has been used also as prebiotic for fish, just adding 1% to the fish feed for strengthening the immune system. We haven't done anything with it in Norway, but we know it could be done, and we could look into it if you have the relevant partner. There are also somebody who had done tests with our growing media, mixed it with the fish starch as fertilizer, and anecdotal evidence was the result that they are growing the biggest tomatoes ever grown in Vestlandet. Okay, the first plant, one possible site for the first plant is at Kirkenes. It's a forestry cluster. Another possible site is closer to the ocean at Fiskomølle in Rogaland, north of Stavanger. No decision has been made yet, but it might not take so long time. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot to you as well, Arne. Very, very interesting. And I see we have had several questions now in the chat. So I think we will give some time for Arne to answer in the chat now, first of all, and we try to summarize at the end. So he will get some time to look into these questions. But thank you so far, Arne. We'll come back to you. We will turn back to the ocean now for a moment. Guro Møen Tveit is our next speaker. She's a scientist at SINTEF Ocean and has been working with different marine and fish projects throughout the years, as well as within the processing of marine biomass. She will introduce to us some of the work from the whitefish sector. So please, Guro, we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Wenche. Yes, thank you for inviting me to present during today's seminar. And today I will give a presentation called Increased Utilization and Value Creation from Whitefish Restaurant Materials. And during this presentation, I will talk about the current situation of whitefish restaurant materials in Norway, as well as give some examples of how we are working with this today. So, it is estimated that the world population will grow with 32% towards 2050, and there is a need to increase the food available with 69%. 70% of the Earth is water, but only 2% of the world food production comes from the ocean. This means that the ocean has a large potential in order to increase food production. Of the fish caught today, up to 35% of the global catches are lost or wasted and not utilized. This is a waste of valuable resources, and we should utilize this better. Of the available marine restaurant materials in Norway, which includes all fish species like whitefish, salmon, and pelagic, etc., the amount has been relatively stable since 2012, at around 900,000 tons. However, the utilization is steadily increasing, and from a degree of utilization of 69% in 2013, the degree of utilization had increased to 82% in 2018, and it is predicted to increase further as well. This slide shows an overview of the amount of marine restaurant materials that was generated in 2018 in Norway and how much of it that is utilized. The pelagic and aquaculture utilize almost all of their restaurant materials, while the whitefish industry only utilized 59%, meaning that 41%, or 130,000 tons of 320,000 tons, is not utilized. Of the non-utilized raw materials, the seagoing fleet, like trawlers, are responsible for 93%, while the coastal fleet only represents 7%. The large difference in degree of utilization between the pelagic, aquaculture, and whitefish industries can easily be explained by the fact that the Norwegian aquaculture, then mainly salmon, is a closed integrated production on land, making handling of their restaurant materials easier. While for the pelagic industries, fishing mackerel and herring, etc., most of the fish is sold whole, going abroad, meaning that the restaurant raw material does not arise here in Norway. For the whitefish industry, however, most of the fish undergo processing on board, especially for trawlers, where they remove heads and innards. And many of these boats, especially the old ones, have not been constructed with the aim of taking care of the restaurant materials on board, and do not have the sufficient technology or space. New boats do, however, take this into consideration, and many of the new vessels are built with technology in place for different types of onboard processing and storage. So the whitefish industry has been giving a lot of attention to increase utilization in later years. And the main goal is that more of the restaurant materials should be used for value creation. And they are also on the right path, and from 2017 to 2018, the degree of utilization here increased from 50 to 60%. Marine restaurant materials like heads, bones, visceral fractions, cutoffs, and trimmings are high-value raw material, rich in proteins, lipids, and other important components like calcium and phosphorus. These are valuable components that can be utilized to produce ingredients for food and feed. And the unutilized restaurant materials in Norway is a significant loss in potential value creation from already harvested resources. In addition to the challenges on board the vessels, there are also several other reasons why it has been a challenge for the seagoing fleets to utilize the raw materials. Some other examples are available preservation technologies, logistics, market demands, and possibilities. If we utilize the unutilized raw material in Norway to make ingredients for food or feed, we can get 6,600 tons of lipids and 18,500 tons of proteins from the non-utilized material. This can cover the daily recommended intake of omega-3 for 14 million people for a whole year, and 0.8 million people could get their daily requirement of proteins for a whole year. Different marine rest raw materials like heads, bones, visual fractions, cut-offs, and trimmings can be processed into valuable products and ingredients, and there is a potential for increased utilization in the Norwegian whitefish sector. Of the total whitefish raw material, an estimated 43% of the fish weight is regarded as rest raw materials. And for example, the cod heads represents about 20% of the whole fish. Optimal utilization of raw materials is becoming increasingly important as the global demand for food resources, and especially protein, is increasing. In later years, several research activities have been conducted on better utilization of whitefish rest raw materials. And some of them have been done in close collaboration with industry, aiming at realistic solutions that can help with increasing the status of whitefish rest raw materials. So I will give you some examples today of two such projects. The first one is called Supreme, and it aims at improving the degree of utilization of rest raw materials from seagoing vessels like commercial trawlers. The Supreme project stands for Sustainable Production of Ingredients from Whitefish Rest Raw Materials, started in 2019, and the project is funded by the Research Council of Norway and will run for 4 years. The project is a collaboration between research institutes in Norway, like SINTEF Ocean and NTNU, and Matis in Iceland. Also, we have industry partners from different companies like Nordic Wildfish, Scambio, Fjordlaks, and PG Flow Solutions. Some of the activities in this project is aimed at working very closely with industry to help with their problems and give solutions to these. We also have yearly research cruises on board a commercial trawler, and many other activities that are conducted by researchers, industry, PhD students, master and bachelor students. Some of the activities are going as planned, while others are affected by the COVID-19 situation. For example, the research cruises, which have been delayed to next year. As an example of research activities here, I can mention an article that has just been published from the project regarding an experiment conducted on frozen, minced or whole cod heads to investigate if frozen onboard storage and subsequent enzymatic hydrolysis of cod heads on land could be a viable option. This activity was done due to economical and technical issues, such as limited storage and freezing capacities on board vessels. Many vessels are currently not able to store and treat the rest raw materials properly, resulting in low quality rest raw materials with limited applications. For some vessels, mainly older vessels, this is the most realistic possibility for taking care of rest raw materials on board. Freezing on board and subsequent processing on land, whether it be enzymatic hydrolysis, silage, or thermic processing. The work is important that it shows that the yield of the main product here, testing enzymatic hydrolysis, and we were able to was unaffected by mincing, freezing, and subsequent thawing, thus being a possible onboard preservation strategy for rest raw materials like cod heads. However, there is still a lot to investigate, like how can this be solved on board a commercial vessel with focus on storage and packing of, for example, minced raw materials. Another project that focusing on utilization of whitefish restaurant materials are a series of projects called Heads Up. These projects are different from the Supreme project as they target the smaller coastal vessels and not the commercial trawlers like we do in Supreme. The coastal vessels have a much better utilization of restaurant materials as they deliver round fish to landing facilities along the coast. However, the background for these projects are that in Norway, cod heads from Norwegian coastal fisheries have traditionally been hanged to dry on wooden racks and then packaged and exported to fish markets in Africa, mainly Nigeria, and Asia. However, due to unstable markets in recent years, the price per head has been reduced, which influenced a decline in the Norwegian export and profitability. This has led to an increased interest for new technologies for utilization of cod heads, especially looking at utilization of the heads for production of high-quality proteins like protein powders or protein hydrolysates. In the Heads Up project, they have been conducting several large-scale testings in collaboration with Fuelux, and they have also tested Sintef's mobile production unit and transported this to Tufjordbruket in Finnmark to conduct trials on fresh cod heads, producing protein hydrolysates of high quality. So that's the end of my presentation today, and I hope you have found the presentation interesting and that you have learned something about the status of restaurant material utilization in Norway today and how we can increase utilization and value creation from whitefish restaurant materials in the future. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, you can ask me now after this presentation, or you can also send me an email afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Guro. This was also really interesting. Thank you. And I'm curious just now when listening to you and having heard the presentation from Iceland, what are your thoughts about the way they're working in Iceland versus the Norwegian way? As you know, both the industry side here and some of the challenges. What would your thoughts be of that when it comes to learning and how we could develop further our products in Norway?
I think the main challenges in Norway, I think, is the markets. I think for the vessels and the industry, that's what they're mainly focused on. What kind of markets are there for their products? If they take care of more restaurant materials on board, who will buy it from them? That's probably the main challenge that I see today.
So it has to do with the collaboration and building up the understanding between in the value chain. Is that what you're saying?
I think so too. Yeah, I think there's a lot of focus on better utilization, and I know that the vessels a lot of them are very interested in building new boats and taking care of the restaurant materials on board. But if they do so, they need to have some kind of economical gain as well. And it also we have some things could be regulations as well. Maybe in the future we could have regulations in Norway claiming that we have to take everything to shore. Today we don't have that kind of regulations, but it is a possibility.
Yeah. Yes, I think so too. Well, Anna, I don't know if you were able to answer the questions in the chat.
I haven't found so many questions, but I've given a few answers to that what I got.
Yeah. So if there's anybody else, please ask Anna now. But I'm also curious, Anna, about the future application of your products into more the blue area and how blue and green sector could collaborate. But of course, it's the same here. Where is the market potential? because one thing when building sustainable solution, of course, it has also to be profitable solutions for the parties involved. So what do you see as the most promising area, I think, for the future? We touched upon, of course, briefly, but is there anything else you would like to add?
Are them with especially with regard to blue and green for the sector, or for
yeah.
this year? Well, I think this this work which Foods of Norway has been spearheaded with looking at making proteins. That is not finished. As I understand, they have not come to practical how to build any plants, and for a while it's not economical yet, which also has been said. But I think that is that should be the first. From wood, the wood can be transformed to sugars, but the fish doesn't like sugar. It needs to be converted to proteins. On the other hand, I know there are several institutions working on it. So we have the first part of the solution close to the wood, going to sugars. Then there are strong companies who are into fish feed, either as users or producers. And I think to get further, it should be a direct a link there. Then it's much easier to evaluate. Then it will not be only an academic project, but then we will immediately look at where is it possible to make it economically viable. So there we are very open for, and I think that we are going to go ahead, and I'm quite sure that in some years, I don't know how long, there will be a significant sugar production from wood. And the cows cannot eat everything.
And another question, I don't really have the knowledge within this, but what about processing technology? Are there areas where these two sectors could support each other and develop solutions and new technologies, or is this like already established technology as it is today?
The short answer is, of course, I don't know, but the development of the, but actually, I think indirectly there is a link already. Some of our suppliers, they are also suppliers to the blue sector, and so indirectly, I think we are already sharing something, and it's those who are developing the equipment who needs to do that. It is not the producers of products.
Okay, now that's good. I see now we have a question from Svein Erik Haugmo asking, this is more for the Icelandic side. I don't know if Buggy could help out to answer this one. Who are the typical buyers or markets for Icelandic byproducts? Are they different from Norway, or is the increased utilization in Iceland only linked to processing equipment? Björgulfur, do you have any answers? Oh yeah, you already wrote that.
Yeah, I can actually take it very quickly over here. Thank you. Hi everybody. So happy to see so many of you here. Just to take the two products that Mr. Sigfusson mentioned, the collagen powder and the plaster, or the burn protection or burn remediation. The production of collagen powder was developed over considerable number of years, 4 or 5 years, together with a major supplier to pharma and cosmetics. And through that cooperation, they found space for collagen from fish. And actually what they found was one of the main sources of collagen to pharmaceuticals and cosmetics today is from pig skin. And that actually excludes the Muslim population globally, which is 1.8 billion people. Half of those would probably buy some sort of skincare products or a considerable fraction of that. So they actually found that fish skin collagen would address completely new market and open up completely new possibilities. The other project with Kerasics, I've had the unmitigated pleasure to discuss with the fishing boat owner who actually was really critical in developing the project. The guy who now is the CEO of and the owner of Kerasics actually came to him and said, "I have a crazy idea," and the boat owner said it was crazy enough to be interesting. So there are very different movers here. And he said, I have fish skin that is literally valueless, and I have facilities within my fish factory that could actually be used. So he simply opened up for resources. So actually open up for innovation in-house can be incredibly fruitful if you get the right brain and people who are interested in exploring. Now, actually, the Kerasic Band-Aid is a part of every American soldier field kit for fixing bullet wounds and burns actually in the field. So they found a market that is both immediate and very, very willing to pay. Down the line, it's going to be people with bed sores, diabetes sores, and different ailments. And regretfully, since the population in West Europe, or what we would call the first world population, is growing heavier and older, this kind of product will show a lot of application. Regretfully, but that's just how it is. And but the point is, there are different ways to the goal and different ways to and different means to that as well. Creativity and the will to think differently is the main focus here. The sort of the what you would that would be the fuse or the touch paper to get the fireworks going. So be crazy and think differently, and the impossible is just around the door, around the corner, and it's not impossible. Just think about electrification of Norway. It was actually people in Hammerfest who had the first electrification in Norway. So be a little bit crazy.
Yeah, well, I think that actually summarizes very well a new mindset, or a mindset that could be a good way to go in this area. And I think we will sort of start summing up now. We like 100% and the mindset, that is definitely a way to go. Just some final comments. After the last webinar in this series of 4, you will be asked as participants to give your opinion on blue-green innovation ideas, like we briefly touched upon now today, through a quest bag. So all participants will receive that. So we hope you will ask and take the time to respond to those. And we invite you, as you see here, of course, to join the next 2 webinars. The registration link is written on the slide, and it will be distributed, or is already distributed in the chat. So actually, we thank you all for spending this hour with us, and hope you will join us for more activities in the time to come with these 4 clusters: Biotech North, NC Heidner Biocluster, NC Seafood Innovation, and ourselves here at NC Blue Legacy. We all try to build value for you in our activities and in our collaboration projects. So thank you all, and have a very nice weekend. Thank you.